Whether you want to admit it or not, we are officially in tax season. And I know that this particular time of year could be a little stressful, a little daunting for some people. And so I'd like to try to make it easier in these next series of videos. Hi, my name is Adrina. I am the owner and accountant here at Accounting by Adrina, and in this particular video, we're actually going to go over some definitions, some language, some forms, some ideas that you might need to know prior to even getting started with your tax return. In the next few videos that I have coming out, I will be going over a little bit more in detail things that can get you started with your tax return, especially if you are a new business owner, especially if you started your business within the past year when the pandemic hit and everything shut down. So stick with me today. We're gonna learn a lot in a short amount of time, and I'm gonna try to make this fun and exciting, and I hope that this video and the next few videos are going to be so helpful for you. And remember, if you want to stay in touch with me, make sure to get on my newsletter. And in the next newsletter, I'm actually going to be giving away a printable that you can keep and have as a reference guide. So it's going to include everything that we talked about in this particular video. So you can sign up with the link below, or you can go to accountingbyadrina.com/newsletter and go ahead and sign up there. Also, don't forget that you can just shoot me an email and ask me a question if you have one. So let's get to it. All right, I thought we would chit chat for a bit because first off, I need a disclaimer in this video, and I will be giving a disclaimer in the next several videos as well for this series. And secondly, I have a couple definitions that I want to share with you. First, the disclaimer. This video is meant for entertainment purposes only. This is not tax advice. This is general info that I learned along my way of becoming an entrepreneur, so take this as my opinion. Please always consult a tax professional, a tax advisor, for your specific situation for where you are currently. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, there are two specific terms that I want to make sure that I clear up right away because I have seen some confusion on these terms. First up, what is a tax return and what's the difference between your tax refund? Okay, so let me break it down. A tax return is everything that you file over to the IRS. This could include Form 1040, and it can include other forms that you might be filing along with that, like a Schedule C or anything that would be associated with your business if you are a sole proprietor or a single member LLC. So that is specifically what you file to the IRS. Now, the difference between that and your tax refund is the tax refund is if you get money back after filing your tax return to the IRS. This is normally referred to as your tax refund. So generally speaking, if you have to pay anything, you're not going to get a refund, right? So a refund is coming directly from the IRS, Department of Treasury, to you in your bank account. Okay, hopefully that clears those two particular definitions up right away. Okay, now next, I'm just gonna show you a few things on my computer, and that way we all have clarity on what forms are and what are important when you file your tax return. All right, friends, so what you're looking at here is the IRS's website, and I just kind of wanted to give you a quick tour because I'm going to show you the forms based off of what the IRS has available. They do have some quick links here on the home page. If you wanted to know the status of your refund, you can go here. You can also create a profile and get your tax record here, make a payment. They offer some identity protection there. Answers. If you have questions, you can view your account, file your taxes for free. We'll go over some of these in future videos. They also have some quick links for forms here. And then they do have some blog posts if you are curious. On their webpage here, they also have some videos on YouTube as well. I think this might actually be one of them. And then they offer some information on their Twitter account as well. So these are kind of like some really quick things that you can do. This is irs.gov. I'll share the link below in the description box. There's also some, in this bookmark section here, there's also some quick links that you can navigate to. So the first form that we're going to talk about is the 1040. So I'm going to assume that most of us fall under the 1040. Now this is the U.S. individual income tax return. It's going to be for single, married filing jointly, married filing separately, head of household, and qualifying widower. This is pretty straightforward, this information here. And then this is where it gets into the nitty gritty. You would put your dependents here, social security number. You just want to make sure that all the information you're putting into this section is accurate. Of course, you want to make sure your entire return is accurate, but make sure that it's legible if you're typing it in. Make sure that you type it in clearly. This is where you enter all the information from your paycheck, from your form W-2, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And once you have all your information here entered, then, oops, I passed it. You'll get your taxable income here on line 15, and then it shows some other forms that you might be using, like a W-2, 1099s, child tax credit, opportunity credit, earned income credit. So don't skip those. Make sure you talk to your tax professional about those particular items. And then this will tell you exactly how much you owe or if there is a refund. This section will be filled out here. And then you can, of course, get it direct deposited, which is going to be my recommendation, because you just want to make sure that you're getting your tax refund as quickly and as securely as possible. Okay, so that is just a quick overview of Form 1040. Okay, the next form that I want to talk about is Schedule C, which is going to coincide with your Form 1040 if you are a sole proprietor. As it says here, sole proprietor. This is also going to be used if you are a single member LLC. Same stuff, make sure that you enter as accurately as possible all this information here. Social security number, and then your employer identification number if you've received that from the Department of Treasury. And then most of us are going to be under like the cash accounting method. And then this is where you would enter all of the items that show up on your profit and loss statement. So if you are using QuickBooks Self-Employed, you should be able to print a tax kind of like summary out that you would just fill in these numbers here. Additionally, you would also have the option to do this in the other versions of QuickBooks Online. It's all straightforward. Here's your cost of goods sold section, information for your vehicle if you are using your vehicle for your work, and then any other expenses that aren't included. So this section here, all the other expenses would get added up to line 48, and then you'd have to bring it up over here to line 27A. You'd fill in that same number here. So that's kind of how these forms interact with each other. You would file Schedule C along with Form 1040. So that's for those two forms. Let's see the next form we have. Schedule E. Okay, so Schedule E is going to be really specific to those of you who have rental coming in from real estate investments. This is going to be for S corps, partnerships, royalties, estates and trusts. It says it all right here. There you go. And then this would be something that you would also attach to Form 1040. So then you would just enter the street address and type of property. This is all the information coming from your system that you have for your accounting. Whatever you're using as far as your rental is concerned, this is where you would fill all of that stuff in. So I know clients that have multiple properties, so they're going to be using additional forms to file because it's going to kind of go longer than this. Okay, now you would have your second page here is income or loss from partnerships or S corps. And I would make sure if you are reporting on this sheet that you consult with your tax professional, because it can get pretty in the weeds as far as the details are concerned. All right, what's the next one? Form W-4. Okay, so when you first start a job, the very first day, they're going to give you all of this new hire paperwork, and this Form W-4 is going to be included in your new hire paperwork. This is going to be the traditional job, the Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type of work. And then you would want to make sure that you're filling this in as accurately as possible. And you make sure you put your filing status here, single or married, filing separately, married filing jointly, head of household. Generally speaking, every year the IRS does update some forms, and I didn't realize that the IRS had updated Form W-4 until I just took a look at it right now. So I really do like the updates that they have here. And so let me just go through these few things that I saw off straight from the bat. So like step 1, enter your personal information. So this is pretty straightforward, very easy. You should know that stuff already. And then step 2, it says complete this if you hold more than one job at a time. So if you're doing multiple W-2 jobs, then you would want to make sure that you have this under, it makes sense to you. So ask your tax professional about this. And then if you're claiming dependents there, and then I really like this section here where it says step 4, this is all optional. You can skip to step 5 if none of this applies to you. But for this one here, step 4A, it says other income not from jobs. If you want tax withheld for other income you expect this year that you won't have withholding, enter the amount of other income here. This may include interest, dividends, and retirement income. So then that way it's going to calculate your taxes based off of the information that you put here. So what I'm trying to tell you right now is to make sure that the information that you enter for your W-4 is really going to be the start to kind of like how much you will be taxed throughout the year. So you want to make sure this is accurate. If you have any questions, do feel free to ask a tax professional and ask your employer, ask your HR department. Just don't be afraid to ask questions, okay? So I want to make sure that you guys know this is really important. Okay, now let's move on to a W-2. So you fill this out at the beginning of your employment, and then your employer will send you a W-2 at the end of the year. So this should look familiar to you, and this is going to be something that your employer sends you by January 31st. And now I've known employers who've waited all the way up until January 31st to send this. And as long as you get a digital copy, I think you should be fine. Some systems allow you to import W-2s straight into their tax software. So that way it's pretty cut and dry as far as like the input is concerned. So you wouldn't need to be typing in all of this information. So that is the W-2. Again, you should be receiving this from your employer by the end of January. January 31st is when they are due. Okay, next up we have a W-9. So the W-9, obviously this has not been updated since October 2018. And I mean, maybe that wasn't obvious, but it is to me. That's what I do. I look for that. If you click on that link, it'll send you over to an irs.gov section where you can kind of learn a little bit more about this particular form if you had any questions as far as the instructions are concerned. But again, this should be pretty straightforward, and you would fill out your name, your business name, if you're an individual, sole proprietor, single member, C Corp, S Corp, partnership, trust, estate. And then, let me see here, address, city, and if there's an account number that you have, and then you would enter your social security number or your employer identification number. So let's say you have a single member LLC who has an employer identification number. You would skip over the social security number and just enter your employer identification number, sign it, date it, and then send it back to the person who is requesting this. So this is really how it works out. So when I hire an independent contractor, I'm going to send them this form for them to fill out, so that way I can enter it into my system so I can send them a 1099 NEC at the end of the year. So that's really kind of how that's going to work out. If you are a contractor, you should be receiving these from the people who are hiring you, and you should be able to just, I think this is one of those forms that's yeah, you can just fill it out and then, print it off and make sure you sign and date it, and you can send it back to the person who is requesting this form from you. All right, so 1099 miscellaneous is really going to be, these are updated forms for 2021. So it's going to be for rents, royalties, other income, and then you would just enter all this other information here. So you'll see copy A is for the IRS, and then they have other copies here for the State Department, recipient. There's some instructions there, and then to be filed with the recipient's state. So this is going to be coming from whatever you'll probably receive one of these in the mail, just like you would a W-2, just like you would one of these by January 31st. Again, these ones are also due January 31st. Now, consultants or independent contractors used to be on this form, and they separated the two now. So independent contractors, or also known as non-employee compensation, has its own form now. So this is form 1099 NEC, and that's what the NEC stands for. It's non-employee compensation. And so this would be for the contractors that you hired during the year. If you paid them over $600, then you would send them a 1099 NEC. So all of my contractors have received one of these from me, but it's going to say like the recipient. So it looks like that. So it's copy B, really. And so you'll make sure that when you receive any of these forms from the January 31st deadline, you would want to make sure that you set all of these aside in a secure location, because these are actual tax documents that you'll want to keep for up to 7 years. Now, lastly, I wanted to touch a little bit briefly on tax brackets. And so I did find this article from NerdWallet, and I'm going to go ahead and link it below because I felt like it was really helpful, because it can be a little complicated to explain and also understand. I think the way that they broke it down makes a lot of sense. And so you would just look at whatever filing status you have. So let's say you're a single filer and you make $30,000 a year. And so your taxable income bracket is going to be within here. So your tax rate is going to be 12%. However, this is how it's going to get calculated. So it's $987.50 plus 12% of the amount over $9,875. And then there's another section here. Okay, so in this section here, how tax brackets work, they sort of explain kind of like the tiered system that we have here in the US. It's a progressive tax system. And so here's a visual, and I think this is like so super helpful. So you would have taxable income here at $32,000. So from 0 to $9,875, this much gets taxed at 10%. And then this amount through $32,000 gets taxed at 12%. And that's coming from this example here. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. So it's going to be a kind of like a hybrid, so to speak, as far as a tax bracket is concerned. Again, I'm going to link this below because I think it's really helpful. If you do have questions as far as like, what is my tax bracket? I think this is going to be the one that you're going to use to help you calculate what your taxable income bracket is as far as your tax rate. And so then your tax rate really is going to be like the amount of money that gets taken out of your paycheck and withheld and then paid over to the IRS from your employer over to the IRS. And so this is kind of like the whole reconciliation process as far as you filing your tax return, is really showing like, this is how much I got paid, and what your tax bracket is what they're gonna either send you a refund or don't send you a refund and ask for payment. So, all right. All of those forms and definitions, I hope this was helpful. And then I think we're getting ready to get our tax return started. Well, there you have it. I hope that this video was so helpful for you in helping to understand some of these like terms and language that the IRS uses. They can be a little confusing sometimes, and so I can totally understand why it can be stressful. So again, if you want to stay in touch with me, make sure to get on my newsletter. You can do so by going to accountingbyadrina.com/newsletter, and feel free to shoot me an email to ask a specific question or maybe a general question, and I can answer it in a future video. Also, I will be giving away a PDF printable in my next newsletter, so make sure to get on my newsletter today. I'll see you guys in the next video.